Thank you. All right, recording in progress. So it's game time. Yeah, so thanks, Katie. So would love to, we're going to try and do a little bit of chat today to drop in and see how folks, how we can help give some feedback and better understand why folks are here and tailor this as we go. But really today we want to talk a little bit about RPA and something that has really grown quite rapidly in the last few years across the market, not only in the federal space, right? We all have a lot of these legacy multi-generational IT systems that we're still trying to support, but also trying to provide modern interfaces and integrations with tools that aren't always there. So Nick, if you want to hit the next page, just a quick overview. Uber Ether, 25 plus identity and access management engineers currently developing a FedRAMP High integrated platform for identity and access governance. So when you look at the 5 pillars of CISA's Zero Trust maturity model, we're covering everything in Tier 1 in identity, and then helping solve the rest of them and support them as well. So hit the next one. So today with me, I have one of our team members, Nick Salmon. He's been with us a couple of years now and really has done a tremendous job, not only making customers successful on the SailPoint platform, but also integrating some pretty leading edge technologies with the platform in ways that hasn't been done previously. And this month, we're going to talk about RPA and how RPA can, basically how you need to govern those accounts, just like service accounts. But then next month, also how we can use chatbots to really drive better interactions and more real-time feedback with SailPoint. So we're going to have Nick here for the next 2 sessions. Yeah, super excited to kind of let you guys hear a lot about what he's been doing. So let's hit the next one. And at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Nick. And like I said, I'm going to throw some questions into chat. Would love feedback from you all as we're going through how we can help make sure you're getting the most value out of today's 30-minute session. So thanks, Nick, on to you.
All righty, thanks, Matt. Just to go back to me, yep, I've had around 6 years of experience just in the IDM space, mostly in SailPoint IdentityIQ. So that's a lot of what we'll be talking about today. But really, throughout my whole career and just in the IT space in general, I try to find essentially any way of automating or scripting or creating some sort of process to make things a little bit faster. And RPA just makes this so much easier for us all. So first question is, what is RPA? RPA is Robotic Process Automation. There's a little definition there, but essentially it's anything that instructions could be written for, you can automate. So this could be, sending out a scheduled report. It could be compiling a list of data from different sources. Compiling different Excel sheets from various different, formats, and then also completing customer service tasks, just kind of menial tasks that just need to be done. But, if you want to have a bot to do it, it's much more efficient. The possibilities are pretty much endless with RPA because and you'll see a few slides down sort of how RPA works and, the benefits of it. I want to note that Blue Prism is kind of the leading partner and is at this point the most integrated solution for SailPoint. So that might be a good one to start with or look at. I know SailPoint has some documentation on that integration and use cases around that. So feel free to check that out. Next up, so RPA, like Matt said, nearly a decade ago, a little bit over a decade, that's kind of when RPA came about. Within the last 5 or so years, it's gotten a lot more prevalent. as you can see on the left quote there, 60.5% worldwide through 2020. If anyone's, I'm very interested in personal finance and I love compound interest, and 60.5% sounds like, you know, a lot. That pretty much means in about 5 years, it'll be over 10 times. So whatever it's currently at, you know, the use of RPA, you could just about, you know, times that by 10, and that's what we're going to see in about 5 years. So it's definitely not going away. And then on the right side is just to kind of summarize, it's a very quick ROI for RPA. Generally, 6 to 9 months is all it takes for you know, you to get your ROI back. The time that you would spend to have somebody trained to do these sort of tasks that this bot is going to do might take 6 to 9 months just to get familiar with, you know, and go through training. So RPA definitely speeds that up. And here's the flow, general flow that really any process has to go through. You could either have a normal, just manual process. Again, this is sort of like just the service desk. Someone calls the service desk, hey, I need access. You know, the service desk person goes through the application portal and then goes through, you know, has to search whatever access they have, add it, and then send out an email. The next process is sort of really the SailPoint's integrated way of, you know, reaching out to a database, reaching out to an API, and having the whole system automated. And then the third is where RPA comes in, and it's sort of a hybrid approach between the two, the normal manual process and the scripted process. There are kind of benefits and you know, cons to each of these. The manual process, you know, it takes a lot of training time to have service desk people, or really anybody have, you know, understand how certain processes work. Resources, you know, each person you're going to have to hire on and have them do this task. You could have, you know, 10 people doing the same sort of job, where the RPA tool could be the only one, and it carries out those tasks. And then on top of that, the kind of last thing is each of the service desk people that are carrying out these tasks also have to have, you know, individualized access. So each person that's working there has to have that access, and that just makes it more difficult to manage. And SailPoint, I have a slide, a few slides down that kind of explain why SailPoint, you know, could help this. And then another issue with the normal process is, you know, any sort of fat fingering, mistyping can happen with the normal process, where the other two, it generally doesn't happen. As for the scripted process, obviously, this takes a lot more technical skill to set up. You know, you'll have to have some sort of programmers to actually code this out. You'll have to have DBAs, all these certain people to get this working. And that just becomes a very big project, where RPA, you know, is again kind of the hybrid approach between the two of the normal process and the scripted process, where it is just going through and clicking through the UI just as a normal person would without coding. So I'll go to the next slide. So some RPA use cases: payroll processing, customer support, report aggregation, user setup and configuration, and many more. Really, what you should take away from this slide is RPA really can reach out across all different departments, any sort of task. These bots can wear many hats or just have many arms, as you can see in the picture. There's really endless capability. And again, kind of to reiterate, anything that, you know, could have instructions built for them. You know, say you have a service desk that has a knowledge base wiki that, okay, I have to add this person to this application. They have to go to this wiki article to have all the instructions for that. And this just already knows it once you have it set up. And although this sounds all fine and dandy, and it's not all rainbows and butterflies, but it's pretty dang close. Here are a couple of challenges with RPA. each bot has its own account, or each process has its own account. So there's more accounts that need to be handled, and that's really where SailPoint comes in. Again, I'll have a SailPoint governance portion a couple slides down. Automating the unknown. You really can't automate logical decisions that are not exact. You can't implement the human interaction with it. You have to have specific actions that it's going to take. Say, if this person needs this account, click this button, and you're done. Next, application user interface changes. So there is some sort of maintenance that is involved with these RPA tools. Since the RPA tools go off of the UI and not necessarily an API that generally won't change, or could keep a version 1 that's always available. Anytime the UI changes, you'll have to rerun this tool and essentially re-record the steps that it takes to carry out a process. And the last, buy-in outside IT. This is a new technology, not necessarily new since it's been a decade or so that it's been out, but just a newer technology to people outside of IT aren't really familiar with it, don't know if they want to actually participate in it. But the fact is, the way that these bots are built out are very much like humans. So it might be a little bit more understandable, since the business people might not necessarily have to understand code, and they just have to understand the process. And here is the SailPoint governance portion. So each of the bots have their own accounts to carry out the processes. Each account has to have a certain amount of access to do a certain action. Say again, if somebody needs an Active Directory account created or an email box created, those bots have particular access that now you have to handle, apart from other access in your system. So the largest thing to take away here is, if you're familiar with SailPoint, these bots are all within an identity cube, and pretty much any action that might be taken on a normal person that has an identity cube, these bots can also take that same action. So first, providing ownership. You have to assign these bots to a particular person for certifications, and just to make sure that these bots are still active, or have the access that they're supposed to have. Lifecycle events, say somebody leaves the organization that owned a bot at some point or owns a bot currently. Since the bots use the identity cube, you can have events fire off that say, okay, this person left, let's check out if they have any bots, and then run some sort of certification, or send out an email to let somebody know that, hey, this needs to be updated, and somebody has to take responsibility of the spot. Reporting, this one's pretty interesting. Again, with the identity cube, you can add extended attributes to the identity cube. So there could be a last log on time for the bot, whatever application it is using, or whatever task it's doing. Those are pretty important to have just as a repository for what the bot actually does. And again, you can run a report, say you need all bots that run some sort of Active Directory task. Well, you could just add in an extension attribute here that assigns Active Directory to it, and run an audit or some sort of report on it that brings you back that information. Certification, just like I said, once when a bot has an owner, you could run these certifications, again, just like a leader, a manager certification, or a quarterly certification. You can run those certifications on these bots as well, to make sure that they have the appropriate access, as well as if the account, again, is if the bot is still active.
Policies, you can apply segregation of duties policies to these just to make sure the bot is doing what it's supposed to do. And then request access. Again, since these bots are identity cubes, you can request for these bots similar to an admin account that an IT person might have, or a service account. That way you can keep track of the access that's being added to these bots, as well as apply approvals around these bots, since these bots generally have more access than a normal user. So now on to SailPoint fulfillment. So the last slide was more around how SailPoint can help control the bot accounts. And this is more of the actual RPA part of it. You can see in this slide on the right side is basically a workflow that you might see in an RPA solution. And then the left side is the action that it's actually carrying out. And I have a little bit zoomed in slide here. So on the right side, where you could see the enable credential, it's highlighted. This is essentially where it's at in the process. And on the left side is, at this point, the bot's basically just going in, logging into the system, searching the user, finding the user, and unchecking this box to actually enable the credential. And this can be applied really to any sort of solution. All of these logical decisions, like go to some sort of screen. If it's not there, retry. Exit out if it needs to, and then just to carry on to the process. So just as a summary of the enterprise benefits that RPA provides, improved security. Access for these bots might mean that there is less access that you actually need to provide some service desk members. Say you have 20 service desk people that are carrying out some sort of task that a bot, you could have one bot that's starting to do that task and maybe 2 other people that have access also in case something goes wrong. So you could subtract 20 of those people's access down to 2, and then have the bot basically carry out the rest of the work. And that means a lot less access to certify and kind of watch, because it's just not there. Increased productivity. Bots, since they do sort of the tedious menial work, if the bots carry out that, the team members can then work on more higher value work to actually build out more of these bots, or work on a project that a bot really can't do, because they're making more of human sort of decisions. Enhanced customer service, that seems to be where RPA really is beneficial, but again, it can affect pretty much the entire organization in any capacity. So there's definitely a lot of repetitive tasks in customer service, so RPA is very beneficial there. Infinite configurability. Since the RPA solutions go off of UI clicks and decisions, there really isn't any sort of back end configuration that you have to do. So RPA easily supports legacy systems if they don't have a database that's easily connectable, or an API that's already ready. You don't actually have to go in and create your own API if that's needed. So it's very non-intrusive, because again, it looks just like a person would go in and click through and manage. Pinpoint accuracy. Again, I'm sure there are instances where somebody might accidentally mistype a title if they're changing a title in Active Directory, or click delete instead of modify. There are many cases of that, and bots tend to not mess up. They're programmed to click a specific button, and that's what they'll do. And then finally, boost scalability. Bots can run in parallel. So bots generally don't have to do single tasks at a time, and then, okay, once when this task is done, do this next task.
depending on how many servers you have and how you configure your RPA solution, you can essentially have a bot running 10, 20 different threads at a time and carrying out all those tasks while they're coming in. So it's harder to provide that bandwidth. And then again, cross-department tasks. Since this is a very scalable system and kind of can do any sort of thing, people generally, I'm in IT, and I might not know what a payroll, how to compile payroll, or any sort of other department sort of task. Where bots, if you sit down with somebody in that department, you can build a bot that does pretty much anything. And a couple last slides to kind of wrap up. Just some real world tasks that,
As I say, hey, Nick, I just wanted to jump in real quick. One of the other things on the previous slide, right, especially as we're towards the end of the year here, or at least this time of the year when a lot of us are going through our yearly healthcare renewals and all that extra paperwork. If you work for a healthcare organization, or if you're in federal government, the contracting organization, right, this is the most crazy busy time of the year. And by using tools like RPAs, right, you can create a single form to manage all of that data, and then have the bot federate all the different fields and all the different systems, fill out the PDFs to complete the documentation without having to either surge up and temporarily hire that staff, or drive your people crazy and work crazy hours just to make those 60-day deadlines every single year, right? And I mean, the good part with that is it's an option that doesn't burn people out. The bad part is it still has to be governed. So I just want to kind of add that. That's one of the places I really see a lot of people, because it only happens once a year, but feels like a huge missed opportunity for people looking to go down this path. So I'll let you go ahead.
Right. Yep. I mean, I definitely noticed that all the more time-consuming activities are these repetitive tasks. So yeah, just like Matt said, all these end of time, long nights that you have to work on some sort of Excel sheet that you're compiling all this data, the bot can do that all for you. And again, so yeah, last couple slides, I'm trying to speed up a little bit here. So real world tasks, just a kind of a comparison between automation and manual work. So Active Directory account creation, where it might take a bot a minute, it might take a person 10 minutes. Just say disabling 5 different Active Directory accounts, it might take the bot 2 minutes and a person 15 minutes. Mailbox archiving and email forwarding, again, might take about 5 minutes and a person to take 30 minutes. And this one I thought was a kind of interesting because while mailbox archiving might take long for the actual process to happen, say you're moving, gigabytes of data, onto some drive as a backup. Well, when that process is actually done, the person might be, off doing something else, working on a different thing. And then really not get back to it for a couple hours if they forget about it or something like that, where the bot, as soon as it's done, it'll be complete. And then the last one, grant department level access individually. So, essentially requesting access 50 different times to a whole department of people. It could, again, take about maybe 10 minutes and a person 60 or more, easily more. And for the last slide, sort of as a wrap up, I thought this was a kind of a clever diagram. The geek side, or really the automation side, being the red, and then the non-geek blue. You can kind of see that, once when a geek does it sort of manually, gets annoyed, you start to automate it, and then run script is essentially where RPA comes in, and there's no more time spent. Obviously, there's a little bit with some sort of maintenance and all that, but in general, you're saving a whole lot more time. So yeah. And any questions?
So Nick, we did have a question come in. So there was some chat going on about Michael's got 90 plus bots in his environment. They're currently managed within Active Directory with what seems like some pretty mature governance processes there. But our friend Casual, I'm just joking, said, right, too many bots can become a security risk, and if they're not managed correctly. So what are some of the mechanisms to help mitigate and minimize the risk? And right, is it just improved IDAM solutions? And I'll let you answer that, and then I kind of have a follow-up too.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I would say integrating with SailPoint or really any IGA solution, and then, you know, tacking on top of that, things like lifecycle events. You know, if again, somebody leaves an organization, you don't want like half of those accounts to be, or, you know, a few of those accounts just to be orphaned at that point. The lifecycle events, you know, keep the bots sort of on track and not lost, because yeah, definitely with 90 or so bots, that could definitely be an issue if you lose track of, okay, who's this, you know, who does this belong to? What does this process do? And, you know, adding again with the extension attributes inside of SailPoint, assigning, you know, certain applications to it, as well as, you know, a task process. And on, you know, outside of that, really, it's, you know, documentation definitely would help with making sure that, okay, this is the exact process that this bot is doing. And you know, that would definitely help.
Yeah, and so there was also some follow-up in the chat about, right, essentially bots have become people, and they need to be managed like people and human accounts when it comes to FedRAMP, FISMA controls, account creation and deletion. So I had, so right, and a lot of times those bots, when they're tied to a human being, they need to be delegated a subset of the same rights that the person they're tied to, and executing on behalf of. So right, that synchronization, those changes can be done very, very well with an identity governance tool like SailPoint. And then on a certification standpoint, right, they can appear just like a employee of that person, essentially, from a certification perspective. And it's, if they lose the permissions to those applications and roles, so do the bots associated with them. And we can force them to reassociate those on a quarterly, yearly basis. So glad we agree, Michael. Bots are indeed people, and sometimes they're service accounts too, which right, you do have to look at some of the behaviors of the bots. And I mean, at the end of the day, they sometimes, what we've seen is they act like way overprivileged service accounts, which is a bad thing and what we're trying to solve. So, so Nick, I did have a question. Why would we ever need a SailPoint anymore? And why wouldn't I just write a whole bunch of bot scripts to do all of my create, update, and deletes of my accounts across all these systems? And if I do need SailPoint still, are there benefits to using bots in some cases as the connector instead of the native connector frameworks? Like, for example, our friend Casual also said they have a huge issue with AD account creation and deletion, which traditionally we've seen solved with SailPoint IGA. Would that change with bots, or what's your opinion there? Because right, there's not a correct answer.
Right. Yeah. There's a bit of a dance, I guess, you have to, you know, have between using RPA or using IdentityIQ for those certain tasks. My take on it is RPA definitely helps with just speeding up the process. Say you don't have an advanced, you know, programmer that knows how to, you know, in a situation like that, AD account creation and deletion. You know, if you have a huge process around that might, you know, create the account, you have to assign a bunch of different, you know, groups to it, all this sort of stuff. Well, if it's something that you have to get done immediately, And without that sort of expertise, RPA might be a solution for you. But SailPoint definitely, with the direct integration with the LDAP connection between Active Directory and actually issuing PowerShell commands and reading in data directly, that's generally the way to go in the long term. But RPA, another use case might be an old program that doesn't have any sort of, like a thick client. It has a thick client that you can't just access it through an API or a database or even a web UI. The RPA solution, again, since it's it essentially records steps that you're taking and then just runs it through the UI on a remote computer. It can accomplish any of those sort of legacy system tasks easily without having to, again, be non-intrusive to your environment and requiring you to create some sort of API if it doesn't have it, or create a separate table or a view to connect to it.
Yeah, no, and and not surprisingly, you and I are on the same page with this one. And sometimes I've also seen organizations, as we've worked with them in the last couple of years, they know that application is short-lived, and the next application to replace it is like already in schedule to come out in 6 months and be transitioned over, but they still have to govern the accounts in the meantime. So sometimes using SailPoint still, but instead of doing all the work to build up all the connectors and do all the integrations and certifications and all the right things we want to do in identity governance, it's not worth that 6 month period, but they still want to get the benefits of creating and updating and deleting those accounts. And a lot of times RPA is the right solution for that. So I have another comment / question, and I know we're over, so we'll make this the last one, about, do we integrate with ServiceNow and ticketing systems? And the answer is absolutely. So whether you've got ServiceNow, where some of the ticketing systems are first executing, and that's kind of your central entry point, and then those ticketing systems are either pushing down to SailPoint to do account creation, update governance, or that central ticketing system has to call RPA to kick off a whole bunch of other processes that have been automated. Both are valid points and integrations with definitely ServiceNow, and then majority of the ticketing systems. And then if you turn that around to say, hey, SailPoint needs to create a ticket within ServiceNow to kick off some things, and then that might call the bot system, or the bot system needs to create a ticket in ServiceNow to do a ticket for, say, account or like asset registration, or that also we've seen done. So I guess in general, bots are pretty flexible, but at the same time, don't forget they're also permissioned accounts that need to be governed. And I think the biggest thing that we wanted to tell people today is these are great. They're probably running around in your environment, whether you realize it or not, because a lot of these tools are really easy to pick up and just install on your desktop without having to make them an enterprise program. But if we're not careful as identity and security professionals, we're going to see 2 to 3 years down the road that we're all in the same problems that most of us have today with service accounts, that and the horses out of the barn, and we don't have a chance to actually manage and govern them in the right ways. So I guess that's my final soapbox moment. Nick, was there anything else you wanted to share with everybody on your thoughts on bots and RPA?
I think you summed that up pretty good. Just want to say thanks for everyone tuning in.
Yeah, so I'll turn it back over to Katie, but yeah, so from a real product perspective, we integrate SailPoint tools for identity governance as well as other identity and access management tools with leading RPA vendor products and capabilities. So, and from a partnership perspective, would love to have a chat. So please feel free to reach out to us. Hello@Uberether will get directly to us, and we can respond and figure out what that looks like. But before I turn it back to Katie here, I do want to say next month, Nick will be back with us to talk about a different version of bots. And in this case, chat bots. I think over the last year, a lot of us have seen that Slack and Teams and those type of capabilities have really grown up in our organizations. And it's a lot of the way we communicate now that we're all in this remote work from home environment, and it's changing the way we're interacting with enterprise systems. And our team and Nick have done an incredible job actually building chatbots to interact with your governance system. So no longer do you have to basically, when a request comes in to approve access, right? No longer do you have to log into the VPN to go to the SailPoint interface. Our chatbots will actually go straight to your phone as another conversation to allow managers and approvers and security officers to say, yes, I approve this person, or hey, I'd like some more information on who this person is and what they're asking for access before I give this, or I can deny them. And then it also helps people follow through as to where you're stuck in the approval process if you need to go kick someone or kick a group to get things moving forward. So some pretty awesome interactions there that we're looking forward to talking about next month. So thank you again, everybody. And Katie, back to you.